Hello, role-playing people, and in this episode I want to tell you about my most traumatic RPG session, an event that almost made me quit role-playing games, but ultimately an experience I'm very glad to have had because it taught me a lot. This is not an RPG horror story, by the way, and has nothing to do with metagame elements like the storyteller being a control freak or the players looking to enslave my character or whatever other horror stories I've seen on the internet. Rather, it's a depiction of the unpredictable nature of mechanics and world building, action and consequence, elements that are at the very core of the game. Accidents and bad combinations can just happen through no one's fault. So, the Chronicle was set during the European Age of Discovery. Our characters managed to acquire their own ship, something which was very much needed to help them escape the machinations of a malevolent elder who had trapped them when it came to traveling on land. After a few weeks, our protagonists got used to spending their nights at sea and frequently made use of very visible sources of light. Little did we know this would attract the attention of predators, the fact that we were, burning the midnight oil. One night, out of nowhere, we woke up ambushed by another ship. Pirates, a rival nation, we didn't even know who they were, but they took a few shots at our ship and were obviously getting ready to board, so they were the enemy. Now, because I was playing a La Sombra Abyss Mystic, I decided my best course of action was to rob them of their ability to use cannons or any other form of ranged weaponry and maybe terrify them into submission. So I decided to use the second dot of Obtenebration, the Shroud of Night. I spent one blood point to be able to center the shroud on the enemy ship, and I rolled Manipulation plus Occult at a difficulty of 6 instead of 7 because my protagonist had the Abyss Mysticism Occult specialty. I rolled 6 successes, if you can believe that. All my dice were over 6. The way Shroud of Night works, each success doubles the diameter of the inky black darkness, which starts at 3 meters if you have at least one success on the dice. So 3 meters, 6 meters, 12 meters, 24 meters, 48 meters, 96 meters. So 300 feet. That's almost double what's needed to engulf the longest/largest ships of that period, if my previous research and memory serves correctly. But nevertheless, in our game it was enough to engulf most of the ship, the enemy ship. My character created a sphere of stamina and warmth-draining supernatural darkness that was so large it had a diameter of 100 meters. Alright, that's enough to completely engulf a 30-floor building. Not only did this horrify our attackers and rendered them blind, but according to the rules, the Shroud lowers stamina-based dice pools by 2 dots. And should this result in a rating of 0 dice in the soak pool, the victim or any victims caught within the patch of darkness begin to suffocate. Hopefully you can imagine the hype around the table, the other players patting me on the back and saying, "Yeah, this is amazing, best vampire moment, oh my god, that discipline is OP." Regardless, everyone was reveling in the insane amount of power my La Sombra protagonist was showing. I mean, we went from being blasted with cannons in the middle of the night to hearing our attackers' very muffled death screams from within a curtain of life-leeching darkness. Pretty cool, I must say. My character was the only one who could actually see what was happening within the shroud, and the storyteller was very composed and kept narrating how the enemy are trampling each other, dropping on deck in fatal position, or the ones who were able to do so diving into the cold water. But some still had plenty of fight in them, so we decided to board their ship and finish them off. Really, our own crew pretty much sat back on this one and let the protagonists do their thing. Getting closer to our attackers, we could see they were not in good health and they definitely looked like pirates, so we thought, yeah, we'll keep some alive for questioning and just finish off the rest and take their ship. We went a bit overboard with the killing and feeding and using disciplines, but hey, our characters weren't humane anymore and had been practitioners of various other paths of morality for quite a while now, so taking human lives was something they could do without batting an eyelash, if it served their purpose. The storyteller kept things descriptive, strong, narrating the destruction we had caused, and everything felt very empowering for us, the players. But I started noticing a very discreet, sad look in his eyes. I would later realize that look had been there ever since I rolled 6 successes on the Shroud of Night roll, but for now, that didn't matter. We were taking out pirates, feeling amazing, drunk with power, and at some point, after my character dissipated the shroud, well, we realized there was no one left to question. The darkness had killed all those remaining. Everything was as silent as a grave. All light and life had been extinguished, and the only sounds we could hear were our own triumphant boots against the deck of the enemy ship. Again, cheers from me and the other players. Whoa, that was so intense. That was amazing. Oh my god, we took out an entire pirate ship in a matter of minutes. Even the storyteller with the sad look in his eyes went like, nice going, guys. Very nice. Your characters are so powerful. Wow, I didn't expect that. Alright, let's see what happens next. So we thought to ourselves, hey, before we bring in the crew, let's have a quick look around and below deck to see if we find anything strange. Maybe another vampire, maybe weird occult items, treasure, who knows. So we went below deck and we discovered that our attackers had living cargo on their ship. Men, women, children. I say had living cargo because now they were all dead. We found them exactly as they had died when the Shroud of Darkness took their last breaths of life. Some were chained or otherwise restrained, and some tried crawling towards the doors. There was a mother who died holding her daughter, and bodies all around. Who were these people? They appeared to have been taken as slaves, but from where? Judging by their rags, I couldn't tell what nationality or ethnicity they were. What about the pirate crew? Who were they? Not only would we never find out because they were all dead, but at this point the shock of realizing that my character had killed over 100 people, pirates or otherwise, really started kicking in. What began as a very empowering experience for everyone turned into a nightmare for me. And then a major disconnect happened. Yeah, my character was a mystic of the abyss. They wouldn't have cared much about those human lives. If anything, they should have been intrigued, having witnessed the power of the abyss and all of its splendor, a manifestation the likes of which they hadn't even dreamt of. Something to study, something to remember. If the character was to be accused of anything, it would be the fact that they had not considered the possibility of living cargo, which, though it was a minor sin, still went against their convictions, since the Road of the Abyss requires detachment and careful observation. They should have been cold, calculated, scholarly in their approach instead of hot-headedly throwing everything at their attackers. Still, everyone at the table considered the encounter a success. I mean, we mopped the floor with those pirates, right? I tried keeping the game going, I tried staying in character, but as the real person behind the character's actions, I could barely keep myself from crying and simply getting up and running away from the table in shame. Luckily, the other players and the storyteller noticed my reaction and we stopped the game and had a very mature and supportive talk. Had my friends not been as supportive as they were back then, I probably would have stopped playing RPGs, honestly, because this experience hurt me a lot. Needless to say, I couldn't even look at the character sheet, and we took a few weeks break to give me time and room to process what had happened. I couldn't live with the fact that I had unintentionally killed dozens of fictional innocent people who didn't stand a chance to survive. At this point, I couldn't distinguish between my actions and my character's actions because it was I, the player, who made the choice to use that discipline. And we talked about this at length that afternoon. The irony of it all is that this very dark session took place on a warm summer afternoon, outdoors. Everything was sunny and happy, and I was in emotional shock for the following couple of days. But yeah, we talked about it at length, and it was then I understood why the storyteller had that sad look in his eyes. He had built the world and the encounter to account for a wide range of factors, but he could not have foreseen a 100-meter diameter shroud of night. He knew both the pirates and their captives should have an average stamina rating. A rating of 2 is moderate, it's average, which is further affected by improper nutrition due to the harsh conditions of being at sea a little too long. So they saw our ship, a smaller ship, seemingly defenseless, with its lamps on in the middle of the night, and they decided to do another hit really quick before returning to land. Makes perfect sense, right? So what the storyteller did was simply to stay true to the encounter and the world building as it had already been created. And we talked about guilt that afternoon a lot. We talked about fictional scenarios, good and evil, action and consequence. We talked about how OP obtenebration is and how unpredictable some scenes can be. The group I was playing this game with was really nice. We don't play much these days due to scheduling and location changes, but we're still very good friends. It took me quite a while to come to terms with the very real guilt of having unintentionally murdered dozens of innocent people in a fictional game of personal horror. The Chronicle kept going for more than a year after this event. It was a blast. I managed to reconnect with the character and play them till the end, which was probably the most breathtaking ending I've ever experienced. Everything worked out well, but I still remember this experience as very traumatic because it happened during my initial formative years with this hobby, and it affected me enough to have almost made me quit. Now, I did say this was also a very educational experience, which is why I'm sharing it with you today. What is there to learn from this scenario? The most essential lesson for me is playing RPGs, especially horror games designed for a mature audience. During RPGs, accidents can happen, just like in any other sport or any other game, in the sense that you can get hurt. Most of the time when riding a bike, for instance, you'll be fine and you'll have a great time. But accidents can happen because of the weather, because of the bike, the road, your own mistake or someone else's, and so on. Certainly, RPGs won't really hurt you physically, but they can still affect you emotionally quite a bit, which is why players need to communicate with each other and the storyteller before the game to reduce the risks of putting someone in a deeply unpleasant situation. A little unpleasant is fine, especially when it comes to horror games, but we always try to make sure the game stays fun for everyone involved. The second lesson is, when an accident does happen and things are a bit too much, don't jump to conclusions. The worst thing you can do is to assume that someone did this on purpose to hurt you. No. Keep calm and talk to your group to see what went wrong and why it went wrong. If an immediate break is needed, stop the game and take that break immediately. Don't accuse anyone, but rather just ask them about what happened. I know there are some toxic people in this hobby, as I've read on the internet, unfortunately, and there are some really nasty RPG horror stories out there, but to me at least, it was proven that most of the time the GM upped the ante to make a thing more interesting, or they got caught up in the scene itself or the presentation and they forgot some things we had talked about before the game started. Even when everything is super neatly organized and taken into account, the improv, the unpredictable nature of telling an improvised collective story, can take the game into unforeseen territory. So if things are weird, take it easy, take a break, talk to your people. If you can't go on for the day, then the session should end earlier. If anyone pressures you to keep going or refuses to acknowledge that they affected you in an unpleasant way, whether intentional or unintentional, then you should definitely reconsider playing with that group or player, because they probably don't care about your well-being. The third lesson is you are not your character, and anyone who casts real-life moral judgment based on what you're playing is completely besides the point. Certainly, because you're not only portraying your protagonist, but also performing them. This distinction can get blurry quite easily, especially when toning down on the performance part and just using your own tone of voice and mannerisms when in character. If I'm curious about portraying an inhuman monster, someone with an alien moral code, that's not because I aspire to that behavior in real life. As a matter of fact, I can see a lot of my own players struggling to portray such awful behavior, to be cruel, indifferent to suffering, fiendishly manipulative, fanatically dedicated to one extreme cause or another, because in real life they're really nice people. Goes without saying, had they actually been any of those horrible things in real life, I'd want nothing to do with them. So yeah, I guess these are the first things that come to mind in regards to this experience, my most traumatic session to date, and ultimately I'm glad a mistake like this was made at our table during our formative years with this hobby, because it taught me that failure and its tragic consequences, even if fictional, will still hurt, especially when it is a consequence of player choice. The story you build with your group will affect your emotions, and it's very important to expect it to do that and handle any difficulties that may arise with patience and care. Of course these games will affect you. I mean, roleplay is also used as a psychotherapeutic tool, right? By people who know how to use it as such, professionals. So, thank you very much for listening. Happy holidays to everyone. Take care, have fun, and don't forget to play.